Welcome back to another video. Today we are going to be reviewing what we have learned about special angle to prepare for our quiz that we are taking next class. Today we are going to continue applying the new vocabulary that we've learned in order to identify the relationship between angles, prove that two lines are parallel, and solve for missing variables. All right, so first let's quickly review some of the old vocabulary that we already learned. So remember, vertical angle are two angles that we get when we have two lines that cross or intersect. Vertical angles are going to be angles that are opposite of each other. And we also know that vertical angles are always congruent. Linear pair. For linear pair, we have two angles that share the same base and they also share a ray. These two angles are going to form a line. And we know that a line is going to be 180 degrees, which means that these two angles will be supplementary, which means they add to 180 degrees. So we kind of just answered the next one, supplementary angle, are two angles that add to 180 degrees. They do not necessarily have to be a linear pair, just any two angles that add to 180 degrees. And then complementary angles are two angles that add to 90 degrees, which means they will form a right angle. All right, so now jumping into the 4 new vocabulary words that we learned, and this is specifically regarding special angle relationship. So if we remember, we, over the past couple weeks, have been using two parallel lines with a transversal that cuts through those lines. So remember, this diagonal is what we call the transversal. So same side interior angle. Same side means that we want both of our angles to be on the same side as the transversal. So they're either both on the left side or they're both on the right side. And then interior angle means that we are looking at angles that are in between or inside of our two parallel lines. So for example, this angle and this angle, those two angles are same side interior angle. They're both on the left side of our transversal and they are both inside or in between my two parallel lines. Same side interior angle, if we remember, are going to be supplementary. So they add to 180 degrees. Alternate interior angle. So we are still looking at interior angle, where our angles are inside or in between the two parallel lines. However, alternate means that we're going to have one angle on one side of our transversal, and the other angle will be on the other side of the transversal. So another word for alternate is opposite. So for example, this angle and this, and this angle, those two angles are alternate interior. We have one angle on the left side of the transversal, one angle on the right side, but they're still both inside the parallel line. And speaking of alternate interior angles, they are going to be congruent. Alternate exterior angle. All right, now we are going to be looking at angles that are on opposite sides of the transversal. However, Now we are looking at angles outside of our two parallel lines. So for example, this angle is on the outside of our parallel line, and this angle is on the outside of our parallel line. So those two angles are alternate, which means they are on opposite sides of the transversal, and they are both exterior angles. Alternate exterior angles are also going to be congruent. And last but not least, we have corresponding angle. So corresponding angles, we're kind of just looking at the position where our angles are. So for example, if I am, let me extend that a little bit. If I am looking at this angle here, that angle is in the top right of this little section here, these four angles. So I want to know what angle is going to correspond with that. What angle is in the same position in the bottom four angles? So that would end up being right here. So those two angles are corresponding angles. Corresponding angles are also going to be congruent. All right, so let's take a look and practice identifying the relationship between the indicated angles. So I want to know, are these same side interior angles, alternate interior, alternate exterior, or corresponding angle? So take a moment, pause the video, and decide what is the relationship between these angles for both of these pictures. All right. For the picture on the left, we have angle Y and angle X that we are looking at. So if we look, they are both on the same side of the transversal. However, we have one angle on the inside of our parallel lines and one angle on the outside. So it's not going to be interior or exterior. So therefore, that's going to leave us with corresponding angle. If we notice, both of these angles are in the top right corner of both sections here. So therefore, we are going to identify these as corresponding angle. For our second example, we have angle Y and we have angle X. If we notice, they are on opposite sides of the transversal. Angle X is on the left side, whereas angle Y is on the right side. So we know we're going to have opposite or alternate angle. And then both of these angles are outside of the parallel line. So this would be inside. Both of these angles are on the outside. So these are going to be alternate exterior angle. All right, go ahead and take a moment, pause the video, and try these. All right, for the one on the left, we have angle Y and we have angle X. So if we notice, they are both on the right side of our transversal, which means they are going to be same side. And then they are both inside or in between the two parallel lines. So that means these are going to be interior angle. So same side interior angle. For the picture on the right side, we have two angles that are on opposite or alternate sides of the transversal. So we're going to have alternate. And then again, these two angles are inside or in between the two parallel lines. So we're going to have alternate interior angle. All right, so now let's bring some math into this. Or I should say numerical values into this. So we now need to still identify the relationship between the two angles, and then we have to figure out what is the numerical value relationship between the two angles. So for example, are they going to be congruent or are they going to be supplementary? So let's do the first one together. So we have 110 degrees for this angle here. And then we have an unknown value for our question mark. So we know that these two angles are going to be alternate exterior angles, opposite sides of the transversal, and they're both outside of our parallel line. So we know that alternate exterior angles are going to be congruent. So if this angle down here is 110 degrees, then that means that our missing angle is going to be the same, 110 degrees. They are both congruent. Alrighty, for the second example, we have an angle of 100 degrees, and then we have an unknown angle below. These two angles are going to be same side interior angle. They're both on the left side of the transversal, and they're both inside or in between the parallel line. We know that same side interior angles are going to be supplementary, which means that they add to 180 degrees. So that means 100 plus what number is going to be 180 degrees? For this one, we can just say 180 degrees. So 100 plus 80 is 180 degrees. All right, take a moment and think about the relationship between these two angles here. What is the name of those two angles? We should have said that they are corresponding angles. Okay, and we know that corresponding angles are going to be congruent. So that means that 23x minus 5 is going to be equal to 21x plus 5. The two angles are congruent, which means that they are equal to each other. So therefore, we can set up an equation where they are both equal to each other. And now all we need to do is solve for x. So let's go ahead and move our variables to one side of the equation. And now we need to move our constants to the other side of the equation. All right, and then we end up getting 2x equals 10, and then we know divide by 2, so x is going to be equal to 5. If I wanted to find the value of both of the angles at the end, all I need to do is substitute my answer for x into both of our expressions to solve. So for example, here we would have 23 times 5 minus 5. And then down here, we would have 21 times 5 plus 5. So for the angle on the top, that would give us a final answer of 110 degrees. And then hopefully the answer on the bottom would result in the same answer because corresponding angles are supposed to be congruent. So 21 times 5 is 105 plus 5 is 110. So both of those angles are 110 degrees. All right. Take a moment, pause the video, see if you can determine the relationship between these two angles, solve for x, and then finally identify the value of both of those angles. All right, so we should have said that these are same side interior angles, and we know that same side interior angles are supplementary. So that means that we need to take both of our angles, so 20x plus 5, and we're going to add them together, 24x minus 1, and together they should be equal to 180 degrees. Okay, now we're just going to combine like terms, so 20x plus 24x will give us 44x, and then 5 minus 1 is positive 4. And now we're just going to solve for x just like we've done before. And then we should, I apologize about that, that was my dog. All right, so 176 divided by 44 would give us a final answer of 4 for x. So now all I'm going to do is substitute 4 in for x in both of our expressions. So 20 times 4 is 80 plus 5 will give us 85 degrees. And then 24 times 4 is 96 minus 1 will give us 95 degrees. And we know that these two angles are supplementary, so 85 plus 95 is 180 degrees. All right, the last thing we are going to look at is determining if we can prove that two lines are parallel. So we are given that if angle 1 and angle 5 are 85 degrees, can we prove that lines R and T are parallel? All right, so angle 1 is 85 degrees and angle 5 is 85 degrees. All right, so we need to look, what's the relationship between angles 1 and 5? So angles 1 and 5 are going to be corresponding angles. And we know that corresponding angles are supposed to be congruent. And if they are congruent, then that means we can prove that the two lines are parallel. So in this case, they are both 85 degrees, so that means that yes, we can say that these two lines are parallel. Okay, let's look at this one. So if angle 2 is 83, that should be degrees, and angle 5 is 93 degrees, can we prove that the two lines are parallel? So angle 2 is 83 degrees, and angle 5 is 93 degrees. All right, so if we take a look, angles 2 and 5, they are both on the same side of our transversal. So even though our transversal this time is horizontal rather than vertical, it's still the same idea. So they are both on the same side of the transversal, and then they are also both interior angles. They are both inside of our two supposedly parallel lines. We know that same side interior angles are supposed to be supplementary. So they're supposed to add to 180 degrees. So let's see if that's true. So 83 plus 93 is supposed to be equal to 180 degrees. So let's see if that's correct. So 83 plus 93 is going to give us 176. So is 176 equal to 180? That is not true. Those two numbers, while they're close, they are not exactly equivalent to each other. So therefore, we cannot prove that those two lines are parallel. Alrighty, for this one, if x is equal to 3, I want to know, are the two lines M and N parallel? Alright, so first we need to think about what is the relationship between our two angles. These two angles are going to be corresponding angles, which means that they are congruent. So that means that the angle with 6x should be congruent or equal to 5x plus 10. So we're going to go ahead and substitute 3 for x, and we're going to see if our final answers are equivalent to each other. So we'll have 6 times 3 equals 5 times 3 plus 10. So that would give us 18 equals 15 plus 10, which would give us 18 equals 25. Is that true? That is not true. 18 is not equivalent to 25. So therefore, once again, we are going to say no. We cannot prove that these two lines are parallel. Oops. All right, my computer's acting up a little bit, but so that is the end of what I have for you today. Just as a quick review, you guys are going to do great on the quiz. If you have any questions, please feel free to email your teacher and we would be happy to help. We'll see you next time.